Hi, how are we doing? It is the final video of the year if everything goes according to plan, and that means I'm gonna be talking through my top of TBR list for this year. I can say I did not finish my list for 2025, but I'm gonna do something about that. Watch this pace. But for 2026, I have 10 books. Basically what this is, like, most people do like a 26 books in 2026. That's way too many books. I just go at the start of the year, go through my entire physical TBR, the books that I own and I haven't read yet, and then decide just a list of books that I want to read the most. This year they're just 10. Other years there have been more, there have been less. I just go with vibes because I feel like that's the most successful way to do it. And this year, I don't want to brag, but I think I got a good list, and I think it might be the first year actually completed within a year. Fingers crossed. So let's go through it, starting with some classics, because you might say, hey, didn't you just say that you wanted to complete the list this year? Classics, like, historically never make it off the list. I have 3 because I have recently kind of changed my attitude towards classics. I have found that in the past I kind of wanted to read classics for the sakes of having read classics, and that's not, you know, productive. Like, considering the past 2 years, I really have had a focus personally in my reading to like be less intimidated by books, because oftentimes the books that I'm really intimidated by are ones that I end up pushing off and off and off for years and then end up loving when I do read them. So I just don't want that to be a thing anymore. So I have shifted my focus on classics more so by just reading interesting books rather than reading classics, you know? So that's what these 3 books are. And I also kind of have plans for reading vlogs for these books. I have for most of the books, by the way, on this list. I have like an inkling of an idea for a reading vlog that I'm of course gonna discuss, because if it doesn't happen, I don't want this to be like something to hold me accountable. As long as I've read these books, I don't care how it happens. But anyway, I've been yapping. Let's show you these 3 classics. The first one is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I've owned this one for so long. I actually have a sticker tag on it. It says April 2019, because I used to like sticker my books when I bought them. I don't do that anymore, but I did used to do that. So shows you April 2019. That's been a while. And I have been really curious to read this with the recent discussions going on about this book and its upcoming movie adaptation with Margot Robbie. So that made me like, therefore a lot of discourse around this book has showed up on my feeds and made me very intrigued to delve into this book again. So hopefully it will happen in 2026. Then I also have 1984 by George Orwell. I love Animal Farm. I think that's one of my favorite books of all time. That's also a classic, and I've been meaning to read 1984 for so long. In fact, since June 2019, because that's when I bought this book. And it also, because it's on the inside of the book, a lot of the spine means that I've tried to read this before. I don't remember that. So that has been the main reason why I have been wanting to read this for so long. But recently again, I got a spike in interest in this, because since I read The Hunger Games for the first time earlier in 2025, I genuinely have been just in like such a dystopian mood, and I feel like at least more classic realm is going to be the most interesting, especially, you know, knowing what this book deals with and the state of the world today. I think this is going to be a very interesting read that I'm very excited to check out. And then our last classic is also a book that I actually bought pretty recently. That's Dracula by Bram Stoker. This is just a book that I honestly have seen a lot of people that I follow read recently, and it's made me super intrigued by it. And I love a vampire story, so why have I never read the main guy, you know? Like, I've always been obsessed with vampires, so it's honestly a shame that I've never actually consumed the Dracula story before. Like, I don't even think I have watched a Dracula movie. I've definitely seen characters in media that are Dracula spoofs, but I don't think I've actually like seen an adaptation of Dracula either. And then for the next 2 books, we are staying on that vampire train, as the next book on the list is Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice, which, if you've been around on this channel, you know I'm obsessed with this show. Like, I can't wait for season 3 next year. Oh my god, it's like generally my most anticipated thing from all of next year. I don't even know what other shows and movies and books are coming out. I know that's number 1. And I have been wanting to check out the book, compare it to the show, of course, because I know the show is quite different in its adaptation, but I'm still really excited to give this a read, see what the hype is about, because I do know that this is a very well loved book, I believe. And then one that I'm like 99% sure I'm gonna like, and that's The Ashes and the Darkest King by Carissa Broadbent. This is the second book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, which is a adult romantic series, and I read the first book earlier in 2025 in my vampire vlog that I did, and I was so obsessed with it that I immediately bought the sequel. And now the end of the year has been a bit hectic and there's a lot been going on, so I haven't had the full time to dive into this book, also because it's a chunk, but I am so incredibly excited to read this. So it's on my list for 2026 and it's gonna get like checked off as quickly as possible. And can you tell I kind of themed this because the next two books kind of build on the romantasy. I didn't actually theme this list, but I made the list and then I kind of rearranged things to have a nice flow in between books. But that was a romantasy. Next two books also romantasies. The first one being Quicksilver by Kelly Hart. This again is an adult romantasy novel, which I used to know what it was about, but I don't anymore. But it came out last year in 2024, and then the sequel to it just came out, and that has really built a hype for it again, and it's made me go like, oh shit, yeah, I haven't read that, I really should get to it, because like everyone I follow loves this book. The second book has been getting some mixed reviews on my feed, like even the people who aren't typically into romantasy absolutely really love this book, so that has made me very curious to see what it is about, which is why I picked it up. Like I said, with the hype around the sequel now, it's put it back at the front of my mind, so hopefully I will get to it soon. Also, this is probably the most beautiful spray edge that I own. Like, I am obsessed with it. And then we have The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillick, which is probably the romantasy of 2025 that I am the most hyped about. Again, absolutely stunning edge. Can you say I have a thing for like butterfly and moths, like that motif. I love, like it's always pretty. This author has another duology that's really popular, which I believe is like One Dark Window, is that what it's called? I don't remember, but I've never really been that interested in this, but for some reason seeing everyone read and love this book this year has made me super hyped to read it, and I just very recently purchased it. So like, in fact, it hasn't even appeared at the book haul yet. That's how recently I purchased it. But I am really excited to give this a read, see what it's about. Also, I feel like romantasies nowadays are massive. This one is a bit on the shorter side, so I'm hoping that will work well with me, because I feel like an issue I have with modern day romantasies a lot is that they're just long for longness sake. So this will hopefully cut that out. And now this is the least strong connection I have for you because on the trip that I bought The Night and the Moth, I also bought the next book, which is Threads of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This is a like secret project book, which means that I believe during the pandemic, when Sanderson was working on books and he didn't tell his publisher about them or anything, and then all of a sudden he announced them as like, here are some secret projects, and then they came out over a couple of years time, and this is one of those. And they are set in a Cosmere, and originally I actually wanted this to be like my first introduction to the Cosmere, because I have seen that it is just a very approachable read, and a lot of people that I follow that aren't like big high fantasy readers have started the Cosmere with this book and thought it was a good shout. But I never found it anywhere in bookstores, so I started with Mistborn, which was on my TBR already, and I love Mistborn, and I think this is going to be like my first foray into Brandon Sanderson that isn't Mistborn, and I'm very excited for it because it really just sounds like a nice and cozier read. And then I believe this is like the first time I've put two books by the same author on one of these lists. I could be wrong, but I think it is, because the next book is Shadows of Self by Brandon Sanderson, and this is here just purely because I know that if I don't put it on here, I will get lost in the sauce next year, because I don't see myself prioritizing this series, even though I own it all. This is the second book in the second era of Mistborn, by the way, which I read the first book also like towards the end of this year. I don't remember exactly when, and I really liked it. I liked it much more than I thought I would. This is a bit more of a Western vibe, and I feel like when it comes like to people I follow, this series isn't well beloved, but I actually really enjoyed it and I had a blast reading it. But like, I also don't think it's like the best series ever, you know, so far, at least from the first book. So I can totally see myself throughout 2026 when I'm focusing on like all different things and I'm like super hyped about, just kind of forgetting about the series, and I don't want that to happen. And then now I don't have any collection, I just have one book left, and that I can't really collect it anywhere. So here we go, it's at the end, and that's Emilia If Only by Becky Albertalli. It is actually 2025 release that I'm pissed I didn't get to this year, because I love Becky Albertalli. I originally started reading her when her only like debut novel was out, which Simon Versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda. Of course, the stack falls as I'm talking about the last book. Anyway, that book, I read that right when it came out, and that was like my favorite book for so long. And I have loved every single book that that has come out since then, and I still do. And I feel like there aren't a lot of YA authors that have grown with me over the years. So I always like pick up a backyard mythology right when it comes out and read it immediately. I did pick this up right when it came out, and I didn't read it immediately, and I've been kicking myself for it the entire time. So I put it on this list so that I have to get to it. Anyway, I was gonna point you to a nice tag, but I fell over. That's my top of TBR for this year. I'm trying to really talk about what these books were about, but like I haven't read them. So honestly, whenever I pick up a book, I at one point knew what it was about. That's why it became on my radar. But like I have a shit memory when it comes to stuff like that. So I never remember until I actually read the book. So that's why I'm not giving you any synopses, and I'm really bad at giving synopses anyway, even when I read the book. So I hope you don't mind that. I hope just my explanation of why I wanted to read this book was good enough. But yeah, if any of these books don't show up in a video in 2026, you may kick my butt. And in a video also just mean a wrap up, because I'm not going to do a reading vlog for all of these books, I presume. But I give you permission now to kick my butt if that's the case. So that's it. Let me know in the comments what you thought of any of these books, if you've read them, so I know which ones to prioritize, as well as some of the books that are on the top of your TBR for 2026. And hopefully I'll see you next time, which is in 2026, by the way. That's crazy.